what?
I mean, like, after all this, before you go into production, are you gonna do like a intro, like kind of like
I just have somebody do an intro and an outro.
So
But
you
it just introduces the podcast. So what I mean, I usually have something in the beginning,
okay?
and then they have the introduction, and then they start the podcast. But it's all kinds of different things, so it doesn't really matter. You'll get an idea of what it's going on. The recorder here. Can you push the record button?
Yeah, just this one.
Yeah.
You're listening to the UnCommonCore Podcast with your host Thomas Howell.
So my name's Preeti, Preeti, but the T is really a TH. And I'm someone who's really interested in fashion and editorial work, period. And I think it's really exciting to meet kind of young or, more fringe entrepreneurs and designers, especially female designers. So that's kind of why I responded to the email, because the capsule show was featuring a lot of designers I thought were very cool.
So my name is Rui, R-U-I. Last name is Miao, M-I-A-O.
Meow.
Meow. Like the cat, meow.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's a joke, but really it's not. So it's very funny. The day I got Tom's email is the first day that I joined the meetup group, because that week I just started doing Instagram. It's kind of like a fashion photography focused Instagram. And I was dying to go to more either runway shows or trade shows to just grab more good shots. And I was always very interested in radio podcast, and I got this email. I was like, oh, perfect. And I don't have any plans on the weekend. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity. So I responded right away. And then I met with Tom and then Preeti. That's how I got into this.
You said that you like, one of you guys said you like the runway shows and you like the capsule show. So what's different, because you have experience going on a lot of the runway shows, between the capsule and what it is exactly that we went to see?
You mean you wanted me to talk about what is capsule?
Yeah, what is capsule and what was the runway shows, and like how are they different a little bit? Tell people what's going on with it.
So for starters, capsule, the show that we went to, is a fashion trade show. So a trade show is where designers or boutique owners, they put out their merchandise just in a form of exhibition, and for people like showcase their new designs. And so buyers or other people who are interested, like fashion bloggers, they would go into this kind of events and buy stuff for their stores. And for example, I saw a buyer and an assistant buyer from Urban Outfitters at that show when I was registering. So like a store like Urban Outfitters, which kind of has a lot of different brands in the store. They would go to this kind of shows, trade shows, to to spot new designers.
Right.
And,
so
yeah.
okay. So what about the runway shows? Because I didn't go to any of the runway shows, and they're a little bit different too. So what about the runway shows?
It's very interesting because this past New York Fashion Week runway show is in the same venue at the Skylight Clarkson Square, also in the middle of nowhere. And I was so surprised because when I walked in the trade show, the venue looks completely different. For the runway show, kind of like it had a lot of directions. When you walk in there, the venue, the warehouse kind of venue, is divided into a lot of rooms, and so when I walked into this show, and there's like a registration table, and then at the entrance, it's just like once you walk into the main kind of like hall, exhibition place, whatever, it's just like a kind of like a stream of tables and booths. Like
Right.
it's kind of like
so. But the runway shows, though, to interrupt you a second. You said there's little. You walk in and there's what? There's like little rooms.
So you walk in there. They have like those like temporary tents. Sorry.
Oh, tents.
Yeah, for media, and also they had a lot of like tents.
I think the theme is also different. That's one of the reason I like about Capsule, is that it's just the designers and the people, and
Yeah.
they're making
Very
clothes for
straightforward.
to express themselves. So it's all about express, not impress, you know.
Right.
And the runway shows are, you see all these fancy clothes, weird looking stuff, and it's kind of fun, and they play the weird music. But people don't have that much. I mean, they're not going to buy a lot of those clothes to regular people. I don't think. So it seems more real to me. I mean, the runway shows are fun, but I think that I think it's a little bit different. You know what I
You
mean?
mean the trade shows seem more real to you?
Yeah, the
Okay.
trade shows seem more real. At least this show, because they're all new people and they're selling it for people. Whereas a lot of the stuff in the high fashion stuff with the runway shows and all that stuff. I mean, who's going to really buy that? And what are they going to use it for? They're going to use it to go out once, right?
I mean, one of the things I loved a lot about the capsule show was that I felt like I could stop and talk to every designer or every individual person and at least spend, 5, maybe 10 minutes getting to know them and their designs a little bit better. Do you feel like you can talk to designers
Oh, not
at
at all.
runway shows? So there's
No.
is that
No,
because
you
I
don't
really
see
love
them.
that personal touch.
The thing is, I think I forgot which one it was. I think it's Hackwith, the designer that I'm thinking of. But some of them in the Lisa Hackwith. It really struck me with her stuff because she's from St. Paul, Minnesota, and her stuff was like for normal girls and like the girls of all different shapes and sizes and stuff like that, you know. But I noticed I watched a couple of the runways on YouTube. Did the runways have people that were all looking like Russian
classic
models?
silhouettes.
Yeah, the little, the thin models, or did they have some people? Because it looked like they were starting to have some people that are different shapes and sizes, and going into the shows because they started the ethnic thing a while back. With different people, bringing them in. That was a long time ago. But now, because I've watched this for a while out of the corner of my eye, now it seems that they're finally getting people with different shapes and sizes on the runways. But I'm not sure. Did you see that at the runway shows?
For the shows that I watched, I didn't see. It was just all classic models, of course, with different ethnicities. But I did notice through Instagram, one of the shows, I don't remember which brand, it has people like of different ages.
They're different ages?
I saw like an older lady, maybe probably in her like 50s, 60s. So I really appreciate that diversity that's been added into it. But in terms of different body like types, I haven't seen that personally.
Yeah.
At the capsule show specifically, I ended up talking to a model who's got a very traditional silhouette, who's been in the modeling industry for a really long time and then broke into acting more recently. She was telling me that basically she finds that high fashion labels, she was with 4 labels that day, can't sell to retailers and to mainstream brands very well anymore if they're unable to accommodate a series of silhouettes. So she was telling me that
A series of what?
a series of silhouettes. So
What do you mean by a series of silhouettes?
so, for instance, part of that is obviously the plus size movement and really embracing women who are more curvy or, who don't fit the traditional size 0 model, extremely tall frame. But a lot of that also is creating clothes and creating fabrics that work with a lot of different skin tones. I mean, the thing that I was really surprised about is I talked to her partner as well, who he's been a buyer /
What was the name of the brand again you're talking about?
So I'm going to try to circle back and see if I can find that. But they
Okay.
were not, the model and her friend were not actually there with this specific one brand. They were there with a set of brands. And she was there to kind of try on the clothes and to model the clothes for people who might be interested. But she'd had conversations with major retailers that morning, and they were making it very clear to her that if the jackets are only going to fit a certain kind of individual, aka a size 0, super tall woman, then they're not really interested in buying that coat. And so I think you actually see the acceptance of different kinds of like bodies and silhouettes, and also the promotion of those bodies on both sides. You're seeing it
Yeah,
in the
well,
creation.
who buys those anyway? I mean, I only knew one person that bought designer clothing, and it had custom fit, weird looking stuff. I mean, who actually buys that stuff? I mean,
I think retailers do. I think that like places.
you mean the stuff on the runway where people are coming down and they look like they're going out for Halloween, and like they got the.
Well, I think that that might characterize 1 or 2 designers, but in my experience, there's also a lot of clothing that I could see someone who's very wealthy or someone who's like very trendy definitely wear. I I'm sort of, you might know this better, Ray, but I'm like blanking on a couple designers' names right now, but there's definitely...
Well, most of them are just for like going out, though. I mean, going out to the club or something like that. It wouldn't be something like you wouldn't wear, like pink and green and yellow polka dots when
Yeah, but if you
out
look
to dinner with some friends, or when you're just going out for some movies, or you're just going out to eat. It's specifically kind of like club wear, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. Like if you look at what Ralph Lauren presented, or you look at what Calvin Klein presented, a lot of that is also like very high-end kind of chic women office wear to some degree, or it's really nice or really cool silhouetted coats that might come in some kind of unexpected colors, but a lot of them are also just mod and nude, and I can imagine someone, with that budget and with that kind of aesthetic or taste would maybe wear that to meetings or work. But also, I mean, I almost feel like I'm pulling from The Devil Wears Prada here, but a lot of the way that high fashion works is it kind of residually melts down, right? So maybe you see something that you perceive as being very costume-ish, for lack of a better way to phrase it, or extreme on the runway, but then those kind of silhouettes are brought to big retailers like Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, other places like that, and parts of those silhouettes are kept and parts of them are not, and then they become a lot of the clothes that eventually
they
are on our
redesign
back.
them. They sell them.
some
They sell them
level,
as is, just people that can afford it. But then that's what I was thinking. That's what I've said before to people. They don't actually, so those don't actually appear as they do on the runway in the stores.
Well, definitely
usually.
not. Yeah, because the runway needs to be like really visual and more like bigger than it, like what it is actually. For example, the Victoria's Secret runway show. So it's just like it's really hard to present like intimate wear because it's just like bra and panties.
And there's honestly not a lot of real estate, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. And so on the runway, you can see kind of like a feast of colors. When models walk down, you can see they have wings and everything. It's so visual, and you don't wear that in your bed, and you don't wear that inside. It's just how the designer and I guess the stage designer and how they want to present that to make, because it's a show in a
maybe
day. Yeah.
some other time we'll talk more when you actually went and we saw a runway show that we could talk about, when people can look it up and see what we're talking about. But I was just generally speaking, it just seems like the perception, at least, is that there's all of these, because the perception being what people see on television and people see when they, watch it on YouTube or they look in the magazines, is that, 80% of these things are just stuff that, I mean, where are you going to wear this kind of thing? Like you said, maybe you can wear it to the office, but the perception is like most people, it's a little out of reach for most people. And maybe 20% is just something that people can see themselves buying. But it would probably be better if we go to a runway show we could talk specifically about it, because we're probably in our minds maybe thinking different things, because I always remember the weird stuff.
Yeah, and this might make a lot more sense situated at an actual event, but like the last thought I have on this is that, for instance, this year, Alexander Wang partnered with Adidas and created this like very eclectic athleisure line.
On YouTube, there's you could see the fall 2017 on YouTube. I saw that, and he has this.
And of course, most people can't afford his actual clothing and his actual clothing line, but it then started this intense trend of now a lot of young, high fashion women will wear cool sneakers to the club as opposed to heels. And so, I mean, athleisure's obviously started before that too, but the point is, I think a lot of things from high fashion runways end up through some kind of residual process filtering to retail stores, who then sell us a kind of new concept of what's fashionable this year. And that's how trends are created. So, I mean, kind of circling back to Capsule, one of the things I really appreciated is that you can see the way in which certain high fashion trends have permeated parts of the trade show. I think like a really big one, for instance, was minimalism and high structure. Like we see a lot of high structured bags at Kate Spade, for instance, right? But you also saw really cool, organic, individual women creating their own version of minimalist designs. That comes from somewhere, and partly from them as well. So I think you can kind of see this blend.
I noticed that too. There was a couple of people. There was one guy in particular, and since I screwed up the recording, I don't have him. I feel bad. The people I like the most, I don't have. I didn't collect their cards. But I mean, I liked them all. I liked all the people I talked to. But I mean, there was one guy in particular. He was standing, and it was very, it was a squared off. Triangular collar and squared off shoulders, and very, like you say, very minimal design, kind of like something from the Jetsons or something. And the pictures of the people he had behind that were modeling the clothes all had these dark circles under their eyes, and it was very dramatic and very weird. And he was sitting there all alone. I went to the people, by the way, when I went to the show, I went to all the people who were like alone, and no one was talking to them. And it was either, and I thought it was interesting. You know, they were interesting. Plus, they're easy to approach as well. You know, I don't want to kind of muscle into a conversation or something, but I found those people that weren't getting a lot of attention have some really interesting stuff. But I did notice a lot of minimal stuff. Who example? Are you thinking of any particular examples?
Give me exactly one moment.
Well, because one of the ones I was looking at was the first guy I talked to, and he was really nice. I don't know if you guys have done this before, but I went up to him, and you know, you kind of, when you first talk to the first person, you're kind of like, okay, you want it to go a little well. And this guy was very nice. It was from Varav, and I could show you what it is basically. Some of this stuff is it's like workout clothes, but they're different. You know, they have different fabrics, and it has just a little bit different way, and it's very minimal, and it's very some pastels. Yeah, you're supposed to scroll down. Some of these websites are a little bit confusing, but they had talked about food. They talked about they have stuff for doing yoga, and they had some interesting. The fabric looked really nice as well. Let me see, and it was very dramatic. And it was something that, you know, it didn't look like that weird gym stuff. Like when you go to the gym, you know, and everybody's kind of got everybody's got the bright standout kind of gym stuff. This was a very modernistic kind of looking to me. Let's see, there were powder blues, pinks, blacks, grays, stuff like that. Very subdued. And also, one of the things that they did, they give 10% to Gracious Heart to support the children with cerebral palsy. And I did notice a lot of these websites are doing that. They're giving the charity, or they have an environmental aspect. They have a journal, and they've got, here you go, they've got all these little just aspects in order to, what they wanted to do is they wanted to kind of create more of a holistic thing. So that it's not just the clothes, it's a lifestyle, it's the food you eat, it's what you do, and they try to make a whole thing. See, here's the thing on their website.
Yeah, you know, this is funny. I don't know if you follow Goop at all, but this reminds me a lot of Gwyneth Paltrow's personal lifestyle blog. The idea is that, sure, the product is, you know, some kind of athletic wear or some kind of everyday wear, but it kind of launches this whole brand of the kind of woman or the kind of man you'd want to be. And so, I mean, this is right. A lot of these.
So they're selling the lifestyle instead of like,
yeah, and it didn't seem it did, like in the past the branding was a big thing, and I don't think it's all about branding. I think it was a little bit more sincere than that. You know, they're not trying to get people to buy into like a hip hop lifestyle to sell Nikes or something. I think that people really believed in this, and not just this brand, but I thought a lot of the designers I saw were kind of trying to market who they are and what their life is about. And again, I think that's what makes it different than like some of the runway shows. The people were expressing themselves and who they were and how they live and what was important to them in their clothing. And that's why some of them had, you know, tea, and some of them had other kinds of, links to other people that sell food and diets and stuff like that. And, so this guy was really, it was really kind of interesting. It was how do you spell it?
A-R-A.
Yeah. Okay, looking at it.
Yeah, no, I think that, I mean, I actually think this fits into a lot of the ways that companies are trying to, or designers, entrepreneurs are trying to market to audiences now. It's trying to be really in touch with your target audience. This is actually a recurring question that me and Ray frequently asked different designers. So Ruby Feathers was started by Sigourney Burrell. She's originally from Canada, but moved the line to Paris. It's mostly run from her, starting from start to finish. And as Ray sort of mentioned, one of the things that's really exciting about her is you walk into her stand and it's kind of visually...
it's very distinct. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's actually at the entrance of...
one of the major rooms.
Right. So I saw her first, and she's super nice, so we started chatting. One of the reasons I really like her is that she has kind of like a very deep understanding of where it kind of circles back to what we were talking about, like kind of the target audience thing, but I'm not using the term because but she really knows who she wants to sell her products on. Or I kind of feel the vibe about her that she doesn't care if she's going to sell or not, but she wants the feathers to find the right person, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think that
here we go.
she's-
I'm looking at their website here, and I had them also, and I have a little section of the notes I took of other people that I liked, and it seemed very hippie to me. I mean, I liked them, but it was that's kind of what I noticed is like the old hippies that we used to wear feathers back in the 70s and stuff like that.
I mean, it seemed a little more rock and roll to me than hippie, maybe. But
Well,
Yeah, she described it as
hippies are rock and roll.
bohemian.
oh yeah, but I think to
Yeah,
your
so
point,
here's a girl, for example, on one of her websites, and she's sitting out in the middle of a little forest somewhere with thin trees, and she's got the feathers hanging down from her hair, and the feathers hanging down from her wrists, and the feathers hanging down from her waist, and yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, I don't know, but to your point, I think I'm not so sure that she's targeting someone for that. I mean, because it's not popular yet.
Well, sorry, I just want to. When I mean target audience, I think what's really cool is something that I noticed with a lot of designers at Capsule was a target audience doesn't have to necessarily be a kind of person specifically, like, oh, we're targeting women, or we're targeting high-end women, or we're targeting, gay men.
Yeah.
I think what's cool about her is she's targeting a kind of personality or aesthetic or a character.
Yeah.
But when I asked her, who do you think is the most interesting person you sold her product to? She told me there was a kind of eclectic, like young to middle-aged man who walked into her store in Paris who had very cool clothes and clearly like what she would describe as kind of a rock and roll aesthetic, but he saw what she described as earrings or something to kind of put on your chest, and he started like putting them in his hair. He was really into it, and then he came back every single day for over a week and a half just to buy her products. And in her mind, she had made a lot of her products for women, but her whole point is she's not super prescriptive about whether a woman needs to wear them or a man needs to wear them, but there's a kind of personality that she's envisioning wearing her product. And that's sort of what I meant by she's creating these products because she's super passionate about thinking.
She has a background in painting and sculpture, I guess.
Yeah,
and she
and you
wanted
could
something
really-
that was a little bit oversized, not just necessarily jewelry, but a little
Yeah.
bit more work.
In fact, like she multiple times says, yeah, some people could describe it as jewelry. Some people also describe it as a clothing accessory.
Yeah.
Because she's made this enormous feather necklace, but really it's almost like a vest. It just sort of covers your full torso, and it's meant to be very out there and cool and ostentatious, but I would think in a good way. So she was definitely one of my favorite designers because she clearly also, I mean, Ray and I talked to her about this, but she clearly thinks about the environment. All her feathers are sourced from places where she knows the animal wasn't harmed. She thinks a lot about like where her feathers
Well,
come
how was
from.
the animal not harmed if they took its feathers? They just
Well, she said it's all her feathers are from natural shedding. So, I mean, feathers are like hair, right? We lose
Yeah.
hair. My hair is all over the floor in my house, and then I have to clean it up. So you can imagine a bird's really similar. And to her, it's important that she works individually with, the owners of certain farms, the owners of certain
right.
places that have birds to
Right.
think a lot about this.
Stress them out so they lose their feathers a lot. Yeah, what's their website?
So
Rubyfeathers.com.
Ruby Feathers. Yeah.
.com? Can you spell it out for me?
RUBYFEATHERS.
Since we're talking about things that are a little bit unconventional, one of the artists that I saw that was kind of interesting was this girl called Emily Shapiro. She was one of the nicest people to me. She was interested in podcasts, and she has these, basically they're stones in the rough. They're contemporary metals is what she has. It says inspired by nature on her website, gem cast in place to represent a marriage of materials. She also has a book on how to make your own jewelry. So it's kind of interesting that she had these actual pieces.
Well, what I like a lot about it too is it's sort of trying to complicate what we think of as conventionally beautiful, right? What you think about in jewelry, it's meant to be very like clean and shiny and just like clear lines and clear stones.
Like a rusty kind of look.
But yeah, some of her jewelry looks a little rusty, almost like something you'd pick up in a pirate ship if you were in like a sort of comic pirate ship. And I really like that. Even like her hands in advertising her jewelry seem a little sort of dirty. But do you have thoughts on that? Right?
I agree with you. It feels like I don't know, like a stone just falling from the space. It kind of feels different.
Yeah,
It's
well,
very
but
earthy.
she on her website she has a little book. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know who. I guess it's going to be a certain kind of person, of course. But it goes along with the feathers. You could buy the feathers and the stones.
Where is she based? Do you know?
Yeah, there she is sitting in her little. A lot of them are sitting in their little studios.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
the
I think
website.
that also to your point, she reminds me of another designer that clearly isn't interested in broad spectrum appeal. It's more like she is doing what she really likes, but there is clearly an audience that will like that too. It's not everyone though, and I found that to be a lot of people at Capsule. One of my favorite designers was Sarah Majid. Her designer label is Sarah Majid
remember her.
Designs. Yeah, so her name is SARAHMAGID if you want to look her up. But she's actually a costume jewelry designer based in NYC, and she worked from a bunch
Based
of...
in NYC. What do you
Yeah.
mean? New York, New York City?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does no one call it NYC anymore? No, but what's something that's really cool about her is that she worked for a lot of major, when I was talking to her, she was telling me about this. She worked for a lot of major labels. She worked for Coach. She worked for Henry Bedell. She worked for J. Crew. And after a while, she felt like the kind of jewelry and the kind of art that she was really interested in was just not, there was no appetite for that in major labels.
So what does it look like?
to
How would you
give
describe it?
Okay, so I would describe it as sort of eclectic art meets the 80s. So the 80s is a huge point of inspiration for her. So you can imagine her jewelry is a lot of kind of ruffled texture, lots of like bright little colors. She has an actual collection called the Ruffles and Ribbons collection. And in that you see lots of loops, lots of things that kind of look like they would be going on forever, like little infinity loops. And then oftentimes like bright pink gemstones. She also has a collection called the Rainbow, and that again has lots of curves in it, but on sort of like gold-plated brass metal. What she does is she has a set of like bright gemstones that eventually paint out the rainbow. So they're like red gemstones, green gemstones, violet, yellow, etc.
All right,
And
so she has jewelry and clothing together, right?
No, she just does jewelry.
Oh, just jewelry. Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you were talking about the clothing. Okay.
Yeah, and she's actually one of her biggest inspirations.
What's the name again?
The name is her. It's her name. So Sarah Majid Designs.
I might have talked to her last time when I did the last capsule show because I skipped the people except for one because they emailed me. But
Yeah, she was super friendly too and
Yeah.
very willing to talk about her past, but clearly super excited by her designs, and it felt like her label was finally an opportunity to make the design she'd been wanting to make for her entire life.
Right.
And I will say, they
so
definitely...
what's the website?
So it's just sarahmajiddesigns.com, but I can look that up and double check it.
Well, how do you spell it?
SARAHMAGID.
Okay. Well, Ray, right? What about you? What did you see anybody that you thought was you were taking pictures a lot? So
Right.
so if actually I have a blog and but there's probably places I'll maybe at the Facebook or something and we could take a look at some of the pictures. I'm not sure. I don't really have a place, but we'll put some pictures up. But what did you find that you liked?
I actually like Sarah a lot as well because we were almost together, but she was doing an interview. I was taking pictures, so
Yeah.
I didn't get to talk to him a lot. But more visually, I feel like Sarah's story.
So she was your favorite?
No, she's not my favorite. I'm just like kind of picking it up. I actually wanted to talk about this girl called Parisa One.
Called what?
Her name is Parisa One, and
Parisa One?
Parisa One. Her last name
Oh,
is
Juan. Juan.
One, yeah.
How do you spell that?
WANG, but she said, I think it's WANG. Yeah.
But her label is
Yeah,
just named
she said
after
it
her,
when,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Parisa NYC, her label. Yeah.
Where's it from? Do you know?
She's based in the city, but she's originally from China.
Okay.
Yeah, so we talked to her, and do you want to maybe start by telling the story of how she broke up with her boyfriend? And you want to you know more about the story.
Yeah, so I ended up talking to her while Ray was taking a bunch of photos of her line. So yes, her line is inspired by love, but kind of with an edge. So she broke up with her boyfriend, was really heartbroken. According to her, he also sort of discouraged her entrepreneurial vision and her desire to make her own bags. So she based her entire new line off of the stages of a relationship. So stage one, she calls the hooked lady bag. And again, everything she makes is out of leather. It's all very kind of minimalist design, but with sort of potentially odd colors. So she'll do the traditional black and navy blue, but then she'll also do a cream. So the first one is a hook lady bag, and what's kind of different and new about it is it's your sort of traditional crossbody bag that with an end that looks like a clutch, but it also has a circle attached to the top where you could hook your wrist in. And the idea is that you're sort of getting a little bit, you're very interested in someone, it's not too committal, but you're getting hooked. And then the next stage is the addicted crossbody bag. And this was actually personally my favorite bag of all her bags, but essentially the way it's designed is it's a kind of small leather bag that could probably carry a couple items, maybe an iPad. But what's cool about it is it's got a clasp that goes over the top, and you can just slip it on your wrist. And so you can imagine that the way she explained it to me is the reason that's the addicted bag is because it's the
Let
easiest
me
one
take
to
a look
use.
at them. You have them on the website?
Yeah,
I can't quite visualize. What I'm visualizing, I'm sure, is not the same as what you are.
What's hard, it's the middle row
okay,
there.
Here
But
you go.
what's hard to visualize with it,
So yeah, they're basically the bags are triangular shaped. Some of them are triangular shaped. Some of them are shaped like a sack, basically.
yeah,
right?
but I think
Right.
what's the most interesting thing about our line is how the user interacts with the bag, right? So for this addicted line, it's supposed to fit like cleanly on your wrist, and the
Right.
idea she was saying was that it's one of her most popular bags, so you're kind of addicted to it,
Right.
but you also like wear your love on your sleeve,
Right.
And so that was something she's returning to.
Okay, so yeah, because I was picturing something that looked much stranger the way you described it. But this, I noticed one of the things because I've spent some time overseas in Southeast Asia, and over there they have little. Like she has a bunch of these tiny little square, I don't know what we call them, the handbags or something like that, right?
I mean, I think of
the
them as
little
kind of a clutch.
little one, clutch bag,
Yeah.
right? And then, and she also has these things that are like more of American New York bags, which you could throw everything in, right? Which is like a big sack, which those are popular in the United States. They're not so popular overseas. I'm not so sure. A lot of people listen to this from overseas. So here in the United States, if you guys aren't familiar with it, they're listening. That women carry around these big, huge bags.
The tote bags?
Yeah, like they're gonna go away for the weekend or something. They could throw everything in there, and yeah, because overseas sometimes the women, at least in some places in Thailand and in Hong Kong and places like that, they like to carry the little clutch bags, but they don't carry these big, huge bags.
I also think there's like an age element to that as well. I think
I agree.
that women in their sort of late 20s, early 30s, and especially entering their 40s are way more likely to carry huge bags.
A bunch of stuff.
Yeah, just because of their
bunch
needs.
Baggage.
I mean, yeah, also a lot of them have kids, and once you have kids, you have a whole host of things you have to carry that you wouldn't otherwise. But
It's so funny before, yeah, I agree with you. But when you were describing the bags and Tom didn't see it, he was imagining it to be like a really bald, like a weird kind of looking bag. But when
How
you
do
see
you know?
it, because you said it, but when you see it,
Yeah.
it's very, very, very classic. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so if you don't explain like what these little add-ons are, you wouldn't imagine what they do and like how like. But when you know it and you look at it, it's very practical, and it's so interesting how she merged the bold idea, kind of like the avant-garde personal touch, and to this classic-looking bags. When you see her, I don't know if you remember her outfit as well.
you probably remember it because you photographed
Right,
her.
she was wearing this kind of like very light. Forgot how to describe the material, but it was like kind of like a silk.
Yeah, most things were sheer. It was very,
Very
like, light to the
sheer,
frame.
very
Since
light,
there's another
very
person,
airy.
I'll tell you about as far as the bags go, and then I was going to ask you something also. And see what you guys think about these bags. Because it was ready to wear for women, is what it was. There was this other. Oh, so what was the website for that lady or that woman or the girl or whatever?
I'm gonna double check right now.
Oh, okay. So the other one the one that I saw was Anne Howell Bullard, and she had these little clutch bags. And let me see. She had something on her website. She says, "I believe in infusing those brain stamps into our space and into the objects we surround ourselves with." And she's got like little doodle designs on her bags, and I don't know why. I thought it was kind of interesting in a little bit of a way. I don't know what you guys would think about it, though. I mean, because I don't buy purses or bags or anything. Let me see if I can find it on the website. It's ANNHOWELLBULLARD. We're also talking because she's got the same last name as I have, so Howell, which is Welch. Did you find the other girl's link?
Yeah, hers is www.parissanyc.com.
PARISANYC.com.
Okay. Here's the one. Let me show you on my one. Here's this girl's website. You can take a look at some of the stuff that she has. But the bags. Look for the little bags. Yeah, they're just little. They're just square. There's these just little square bags. These are very simple little things. And she was also a painter.
I mean, it seems like her interest is almost less in the form of the bag and more in the prints, like
Right.
Yeah,
how much art
right.
she
And
can
also
put on.
like
The bags
she's
are just
holding
square.
a
They're just very
notebook-
simple
notebook,
square.
like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I
what
feel
she
like the
does.
designs are very kitschy. So, you know, she takes like you can imagine like a corner print and then expands it across the bag. So there's leopard prints, there's gemstone prints.
It's a very interesting idea. Like, especially this one we're looking at. It just totally looks like a notebook. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have too much. There were a couple of them that didn't have too much to show, and they were just there. But by the way, I was going to go back. I noticed it seems that a lot of the colors were like these pastel or very subtle, subdued greens, a lot of creams, a lot of browns, and of course a black and white. Not a lot of really bright colors.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Yeah, Parissa was definitely someone I think who stuck to traditionally chic colors. So, you know, there was a navy, there's a lot of that kind of like orange brown classic leather color. But something I kind of noticed, and I do want to circle back
But
to
you did,
Parissa.
but you did see that. But you did notice that a lot of the colors were just very subdued. Like a pastel.
Yeah, but I think that she also, for instance, stage 4 of her line is the boundless small bucket bag, and it's supposed to sort of symbolize the time of your relationship when it feels like there's just boundless love.
So
And
you're talking about
Parissa
Okay.
here. And in this, like, she's the one that sort of designed the line that the multiple stages are supposed to be the stages of a relationship. And this looks a lot like that sort of classic American big kind of bucket bag that's also been trending a lot. And it's in traditional colors like navy, black, sort of this like chestnut, leather brown.
inside there, this one, the inside is like, there's not inside, but kind of like.
Yeah, but the creases of the bag are bright red.
Right, right.
So there's clearly this element
Okay.
of we're going to do these sort of nude colors, but also have moments of kind of bright pops of color.
And it looks like hardship. This.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it looks
Yeah.
like hardship.
It looks like a
Heart-shaped,
heart shape.
Oh,
sorry.
heart shape. Oh, okay.
And I don't know about you, but I thought that was so cute.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cute.
And kind of clever so that you can buy one of her bags and it can be the bag you take all the time because the color is not too bold. But there's also something about it that doesn't make it look like just any regular bag. It doesn't look like you're just carrying, and like, you know, Michael Kors is very famous and very popular. So of course this strategy has been successful, but there's something about a kind of classic retail bag that doesn't look super unique. You can tell that there's this sort of entrepreneurial specific
Okay.
designer touch.
yeah.
All right,
Should
enough
we
with
talk
the
about like
bags.
a little bit of price?
No more
of
bags.
these bags right now?
No more bags? Bags
Really?
are
You
half
have
the
more
show.
bags? Oh, really?
Well,
for you, maybe.
Well, maybe, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's move on from bags.
Okay, so yeah, because they're my favorite one. Because we've got a lot going on here. I'm gonna have to edit it down a little bit, unfortunately. But my favorite one was this one right here. Was Stutterheim raincoats. Basically, it was the third or fourth person I talked to. I was walking around, and they really stood out to me because the raincoats themselves looked so slick. And maybe slick isn't the right word, but the plasticky material on them, maybe it's because it was in the capsule show and everything else is fabric, but they had these greens and these pinks and these browns, and their style was really unique. It looked like something from the 60s, and maybe it's my background in the film, but and I looked at it, and the guy, I said, "Can I talk to you?" And the guy was like, "Nah, I don't know why. Why do you want to talk to me?" And I got him to talk to me, and he was really nice after you got him talking. But he wanted to create a line of raincoats that reflected the mood you have when it rains. And the films by Ingmar Bergman and the old 60s melancholy. He's got all these poems and all this stuff on his website about, melancholy and mood, and he's really into it. And it's Stutterheim. Here's the website. It's loading up. I had a picture on my thing, but it says "Embrace Swedish Melancholy." Okay, you're gonna have to click on something to take a look at it. But yeah, I thought they were kind of cool, you know. And he had some models on his website, and the models were modeling the clothing, and it didn't look all that great. But then he had some people. I think he's got whatever the Instagram or something like that. I forgot what the pound sign is on there, but I'll get it when I get my iPad back. But and then he had actual people in real life sending their pictures of them in the raincoats, and those look great, I thought.
Yeah.
So the actual people out in the street wearing them look better than like his models on the runway and whatnot. They really give that
That's
that
interesting.
feeling.
It's kind of interesting what is
Oh,
interpretation.
you guys don't like them.
No,
I can
I
tell by the
actually-
way you're responding. No.
No, I actually really like them. I have kind of two immediate thoughts. It's sort of interesting what he thinks like melancholy colors are, because some of them. So
Because the bright, like the pink one
Is not
like
what I
the happy color.
yeah, like some of them.
Well, the
are,
pink was very, like I said, it was very washed out pink. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, yeah.
But it still surprises me because like blue, gray, dark green.
All the others I agree. It's just the pink one that I
I kind of like it though.
You
Yeah,
have
I
to see
love
it
it.
in.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's like the rubber band that I have here. See this rubber band. It looks. I have to have. I bring rubber
Yeah.
bands wherever I go. But this is a pink, kind of like a pink rubber band color.
But I have to say, one of his models is wearing a sort of see-through, transparent sheer raincoat,
that thing,
and I
yeah.
absolutely love that. I think it allows your clothing underneath to still show, but it clearly protects you from the rain. And I think it offers like a kind of practical, high fashion aspect to your wardrobe. I really like that. But no, the thing I was going to comment on is I really like that the raincoats seem very gender neutral. I don't know if that was the intention of the designer, but nothing about the silhouette strikes me
Well, they
as
have different
particularly.
things for men and women, so
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, the look seemed to remind me of Life magazine advertisements for stewardesses going on Pan Am Airlines and stuff like that. You know what I mean? The cut and everything. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, from the '60s. You might not know what I'm talking about as far as the ads go, but there's old Pan Am Airlines. They used to have certain styles in their, the girls that what are those called? The girls in the airplane.
The
stewardess.
Yeah. Stewardess? Was I stewardess?
Yeah, that's
The
right.
stewardess is right. Anyway, so yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting.
But something that I found kind of interesting is I actually spoke to this designer who's based in Brooklyn. Her name is Izaskun Zabala, and she was very insistent and passionate and deliberate about this. She feels like the essence of beauty, in her opinion, is this sort of like darker featured female. So she's like, I love dark colored hair and dark colored eyes. And it's funny because she is a very petite, blue-eyed, blonde-haired woman, and she
Yeah.
was sitting here. The reason I went up to her stand is because her models are dressed in a way that is very striking. So her major model is bald, and so it's one of her friends apparently, but she's a bald African American woman, and she's wearing sort of religious type makeup on her face. So she's wearing like really dark charcoal eyeliner. She has what I would describe as kind of a large bindi, but basically a mark on her.
Bindi?
Yeah. So I'm Indian, so I kind of recognize
That's a
that
little
aesthetic.
dot on your head.
Yeah, but for her it was more like a long line.
Okay.
And then she was wearing kind of like light nude makeup. But I went up to her because I was curious, and apparently all her collections are supposed to be inspired by some sort of spirituality or some kind of connecting with your inner goddess, connecting. She has an entire line that is supposed to represent the lunar cycle. And so
And who is this again?
Her
I kind
name
of was
is-
listening to it. I lost track. What
no,
you were
her name is
talking
Izaskun Zabala. That's Izaskun. Last name Zabala.
And what does she do
Zabala.
exactly?
She's a jeweler.
Oh,
so
she makes
she
jewelry,
creates.
okay.
Yeah, she creates jewelry that's meant to be very spiritual and very meant to be in line with kind of thinking about planetary spirituality and your inner goddess. But I thought what was really interesting is that the way she chooses to model that line is often not relying on a very traditionally conventional American beauty aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And she was super insistent about that. It was a deliberate choice. But yeah, you can excuse me. She's based in Brooklyn, and most of her designs are also very minimalist. They're all gold, cut out shapes, nothing.
And she was Indian.
No,
She's like white.
yeah,
blonde.
she's a petite
okay.
blonde
I see.
woman.
That's right. That was your point in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, a lot of this stuff. I'm a guy, and I just watch, like I said, fashion out of the corner of my eye. So, yeah. So you guys would know better than I would. So when I put this thing together, I'll try to keep, I'm just going to be shooting in the dark basically on what I include here. I'll try to get everything. But since you're talking about an Indian girl, there was this one girl. She's also gave to charity.
Wait, what Indian girl?
Her name is, well, no, I mean, you were not talking about an Indian girl. You're talking about the Indian designs on their face and stuff like that. But there was this one girl called Malika Rajani, and she has, she makes leather clothing. And the thing is, she doesn't have a website, or she doesn't have a whole lot to look at. But she had a little teeny tiny booth set up, or a little tiny, not even a booth, a little rack, and it was just like 10 or 12 just in leather. Well, here's one picture of it, but leather coats and stuff like that. And the thing that made it a little bit different was that the patterns on the leather, you have to kind of look closely at the patterns on the leather, and they look like snakeskin or weavings. And evidently she goes to a place in China, and she gets people who are some kind of weavers in this little village, and she incorporates those weaving designs in her leather, and she gets leather sourced from China as well.
Oh.
And so she, I thought she was kind of interesting.
It's still leather, but it's kind of a crochet way.
Yeah, she's got
Okay.
she's got it sectioned off, so
I was
different
gonna say-
sections have different kind of patterns and things like that. It
The
was kind of
texture-
interesting.
I really like that
Yeah.
actually because
Yeah.
I've been to India several times, and it really reminds me of the sort of textured hemp bags that you see in India a lot. Those are made across all over India, but especially by sort of local women.
That pattern, it reminds me of like in China where like a woman would carry around these like bamboo baskets. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to bring something that's sort of the fabric of another country's
Yeah.
life and bring it to high fashion retail. Like clearly leather goods are expensive.
And it transfer from, it's the same pattern, but it transfer from one fabric to another.
Yeah.
It's like kind of unimaginable to have that kind of pattern made with leather, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, so the thing is, if you go to her website, her main website that's going on right now, it's her old stuff. So this stuff that she's doing in leather, you won't see it on there. At least I didn't. And but if you do #MALIKARAJANI, like on Twitter or Instagram or something like that, you could see some of her new stuff. But yeah, I thought it was kind of a little bit interesting there. Yeah, and she seemed like an interesting person. There was one more. There was a couple more that I wanted to go over. One of them emailed me that I looked at last time, and this is the one right. Oops, this is the one right here. It's Orphelia Sorbia, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they have scarves and different kinds of little clothes here. And a lot of their stuff was kind of like to shock. So they had scarves originally, but the thing about them was they had, here, take a look at it. There was kind of like a theme. The scarves are made
interesting.
in Italy, but they're, and I mentioned it last time in the first capsule, but the designs are really nice and really weird, and they kind of reminded me of United Colors of Benetton. This idea of, kind of shock value. You know the shock value campaign, the United Colors
No,
of
I'm
Benetton?
not familiar
Oh,
with that.
in the past, United Colors of Benetton had this ad campaign. It was very controversial. They would have some of their most controversial things. I couldn't even find them on the internet now. Where they would have a car accident, and they would have clothes just laying there that was all bloody, and it was be like their United Colors of Benetton. This was before they went all multicultural. And then they had another one where there was a guy who caught a shark. And this one was great, and I couldn't find this one on the internet either. And they cut the shark open, and the photography was of clothes inside the belly of the shark. So that this was, it just kind of reminded me a little bit, even though this is cartoony and kind of humorous, they're really
Yeah.
going for kind of a combination of sort of like, not so much shock value, but looking and exploring the darker side of, violence and stuff like that, and, sort of purging it of whatever kind of, sort of, I don't know, it's negative impact, and
Yeah, it's like
putting it
kind
into
of-
fashion. I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but I mean, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, so they have like one girl there is she's got a little gun, an arm wrapped around her
Right,
head,
yeah.
and she's shooting herself. And yeah, so I thought it was, and they have they punks. There's people that are tied with their scarves, with their arms tied around their back, and like these kind of crime scenes. And they also have a couple of these Mexican wrestlers in there. So I thought it was kind of like a very streety, kind of like a very something of a kind of punk kid would do.
Yeah. And also, I really feel like, see, look at this model. She's wearing all like a
Yeah, and he's
black,
like they're displaying the
t-shirt.
scarf around her like
Yeah,
a bandito, like a
gangster,
bandit.
Yeah. And this one covers her own eyes. And yeah, it kind of, I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of violent in a way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the thing is. That's the connection that I was making. Is it was kind of purging the violent. It was purging the sort of the emotional response that we have to violence, and sort of making it into a making fun of it. The way I mean, it's the way high school kids do. They kind of do things to shock people in a way. And they're not really don't have any evil intent necessarily. But they want to stand out. They want to say something. And it's part of what our world is. So. But I don't know. I was integrating that into the style. I think it's kind of interesting.
It's very interesting, especially this idea on like these tiny sheer scarves. I
Yeah.
would imagine this kind
There's
of concept
clothing
on,
they have too in there, if you could look. But and the clothes are kind of funky, and it's all kind of in a cartoony Japanese kind of way.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. This one is called their Frida collection. It's based. I think it's inspired by Frida Kahlo, but all these cartoon like characters.
You mean Frida Kahlo?
Frida Kahlo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
okay.
Mexican
Right.
painter.
The Diego Rivera's wife.
Yes. But these cartoons look like just Japanese high school kids.
Right, right.
Yeah, but they all have unibrows.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. The colors are very, very bright. Oh, I just want to go back to a little bit on Parisa one. It's not entirely about her, but since we talked about how she only started to create this line a year ago.
What's the name again?
The
Who you talking
bags
about?
Parisa one.
Parisa, P-A-R.
Going back to those bags?
Well,
No, I
Those
just-
damn
I just
bags.
found it.
I mean, I think she was one of the coolest people we met. And like, if I were to buy probably one thing from the show, it would probably be her bag. So I don't know.
It's very so I made a mistake. I thought she was someone else, and she actually didn't go to design school. I thought she was like in finance or something, because a lot of Chinese, cause she's from China, a lot of like Chinese Indian kids here, they're like in STEM major. Yeah, they wouldn't go to design school, so I thought I was her. That was my stereotype. My bad. But
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's sometimes. I mean, that's the thing. I only took notes since we lost the tape of the people that gave me cards, but there were some good people there. You kind of have to make notes or take a picture of their brand or something like that to kind of remember them. There was one particular I really liked that had scarves, and they had pug dogs, and they were a couple of girls, and they were they were a lot of fun, and they were very nice. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, were they the couple of German girls?
I think so.
Who had like very kind of like
They had like the scarves around their necks, and they were overdressed, and they were in coats and stuff like that. They have little.
I think we're talking about the same.
Yeah, yeah.
No, there were a lot of people there with really incredible energy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
they were
people-
both very fun.
No, I was going to say though, if you're sort of sick of bags and bag-related things, I actually ended up talking to people in the body section. In the trade show, there was a section dedicated to clothing, a section dedicated to jewelry and bags, and then there was a section dedicated to body products. And I ended up talking to two.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to talk to anyone there, but I ended up talking to two women who run Floss Gloss, and they're actually a nail company. So they create kind of really edgy, very non-traditional colors, and they talk about how the main brands that dominate sort of drugstore retail nail companies are OPI, Essie, Sally Hansen, and they're not trying to compete with those big brands, but what they're trying to do is market to a group of people who
Well,
are...
what did it look like? Were the colors?
So their
Oops.
company is called Floss Gloss. That's FLOSSGLOSS, and they're run by Aretha Sack and Janin Lee. Started in San Francisco, but it's definitely
Oh,
not
that's interesting.
traditional.
Yeah, San Francisco's full of those people.
But what's really cool is, this is kind of to your point earlier, but their colors, I imagine, are like disco ball purple, evergreen green, orange, like very sparkly. Sometimes they'll have like mod colors, but the mod colors will always be kind of non-traditional colors. So you're not going to get your classic red. You're not going to get your classic pinks. And I talked to the two women, and they said that they had like several problems with the sort of traditional nail industry. And a big one is she was telling me, I don't know who decided that red was the professional color for women, but for whatever reason, we've decided that red, nudes, pinks, these kind of more subdued colors, even though red's not even that subdued, is what professional women are supposed to wear. And so she wanted to wear like a bright aquamarine blue or a crazy green or these very edgy colors, and she found that there wasn't a market for it.
Well, that's not that, to interrupt you a little bit, that's not that unusual coming out of San Francisco.
Yeah.
The Urban Decay several years ago started the whole thing of, challenging the standard styles. You familiar with Urban Decay?
Yes.
Yeah, the girl, and she was, with Silicon Valley. I guess she was in started one of the big companies that does, what is it called? Cisco Systems or something.
Yeah.
Was her system, and she started Urban Decay, and that was based on the same thing you say is something exactly opposite. It's based on the colors you see in the street in the urban setting. So it was kind of like a challenge to because that stuff is boring after a while, right?
But what's really interesting is now Urban Decay is like a very, very successful makeup line.
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't think they were the first. I think they were one of the first to do that.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is what's interesting is one of the products that Urban Decay has become very popular based on and sold a ton of units of is the Naked palette. And the Naked palette's actually mostly all neutral tones. So you can see that even there's a lot of pressure for mainstream brands to kind of eventually start neutralizing in order to sell really well and to reach a broad audience.
Also, the last one, Cece is one of the designers that I noticed at the show also was there's a lot of women in these really long, flowing kind of robe-looking dresses, and she's kind of into that. One of the products that she was telling me about was you see that little yellow, but I think there was also a blue fur. And I was watching some of the blogs last night, and some, they have the V-blogs of a lot of girls into fashion and V-blogs. And it's kind of one thing that you could do that's kind of in between just something you can wear, a reasonable person, a normal person could wear, and going into getting a little bit extreme and getting a little bit exotic. Because, like I said, these bloggers, they had on these fur coat things, and they attracted a lot of attention from people, and it was just one simple little item, and it really made their, personality kind of stand out with just one or two little simple little additions, So anyway, the blue and the fur thing, and they're handmade, and so they're a little bit expensive. But I think if somebody was wanting to, stand out a little bit, get a little bit of attention, do a little bit of their stuff, they can choose one thing like that and really, mix it up. And I noticed a lot of the designers also were designing things that could be mixed with things that they already had. I mean, things that their customers would already have, that people would already have. And kind of mix and match. There wasn't all just you had to buy all my one product.
Right. I mean, I really like this, and I've actually kind of seen these sort of silhouettes. I think that fur is like definitely really coming back. Or
That's what I was trying to say. I guess I was getting tired, but
I think that like
the
also
fur.
anything that has like a shaggy texture is also starting to kind of circle back. I've seen at least. I don't know. I mean, you might know a lot more about this than I do.
I mean, definitely, like in the winter, like you see, like it's like kind of like a necessary piece for any vloggers. I really like this. I like the color. It's
I actually really love this sort of like bright sunny yellow.
And it's so funny. She pairs up like a white dress inside, and the entire look reminds me of an egg. This.
She looks like an omelet.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's very fun.
But no, I also think it's kind of nice to incorporate really bright colors in the winter because you don't see.
Yeah. Let's see. And okay, well, there's some other ones. Let me just go over real quick, and we'll finish up here. Let's see. There was one Rosina May. Did you guys see her?
You're gonna have to remind me of what her label is like.
Okay, it's Rosina May, and this is this kind of stuff. Here, let me show you. They're kind of like teenagers with sort of. I don't know if I think you have to be a teenager or somebody at least under your 30s or something to wear some of the stuff. It was kind of. They had different kinds of things in there. It was very sort of
It's cute.
young and rebellious, and it had tight black. What is it? What are you seeing in there?
I mean, I see swimwear.
There's some swimwear. Yeah, it's for hanging out. That's what it is. It's swimwear. I forgot for a moment. It's swimwear that you could wear out to a party, or you could wear to the school, or you could wear to at the beach. So it was kind of like this cross, relaxing sort of stuff that goes in between the beach and the pool and the party and the club, stuff like that. So you could like wear it all day long, and it was young, and it was kind of like you say, minimalistic and kind of a little bit dramatic.
Yeah, what's really cool is that the designs are very minimalistic. So it's mostly all black and white, like pairing geometric shapes. Occasionally you'll see a pop of color, but her models are like their makeup and their style is very dramatic. Like one of her models has bright hot pink eyeshadow. And so she's clearly like playing to a very edgy girl, but the designs itself.
And also this one, like this girl, she's out on the street instead of all the other models who are like by the pool. It kind of like reminds me of the like street carnival in Sao Paulo. So it just looks like she would be participating in a street carnival.
Or she's going to a festival.
Yeah, yeah. It's all these grasses and graffiti.
I think it's definitely an attempt to expand where we think swimwear is appropriate.
Yeah.
She's kind of complicating that, right? Like you don't only need swimwear at the pool, you can have it at a party or at a fair or at somewhere else. I think, yeah, I'm also really into how much she plays with necklines. So it looks like, people have a very traditional idea of what the swimwear neckline is. It either is, the strapless neckline or a kind of V-neck.
Yeah.
She seems to have a lot of, like a turtleneck, but still keeping it kind of hot and attractive.
Right.
She seems to play a lot with those.
Hold on a second. Turquoise and tobacco. You see them? Turquoise and tobacco.
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm worried about the battery here. Okay, let me show you. There's their website. They're very hippie and very. Also, if you like the feathers, you could do. What was it? You get the girl with the gemstones, the girl with the feathers,
Yeah,
and
it
the
goes
girl
well
with
with
this
those.
things. Yeah, it would all have this kind of like outlaw Josie Wales girlfriend or something like that.
Wouldn't it be funny if they don't like at the capsule they
Very hippie.
don't kind of like divide the ready to wear and like jewelries? Jewelry was on the first floor and ready to wear was on the second floor. If they mix all the styles
by
up
theme.
together, by theme.
Yeah, that would be better.
I think that would also probably help
Oop.
buyers a lot, right?
All right, my battery went on that, but we still got the battery going on this one, right?
Okay. Yes, we do.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's still running.
Okay. I'll double check that.
Yeah, I have to say, I do like that idea because I imagine if you're a buyer, you can just clue in and if you're interested. But then at the same time, maybe it's easier to organize by, we're interested in buying XYZ good today. So yeah, it's definitely very dramatic, very like bohemian girl is out in the, she can like fit into an urban setting, but she's also the kind of person that would go on an adventure.
A little bit like cowgirl.
Yeah.
No.
The model's always wearing a hat. It's funny though, I'm starting to look at more and more websites and I noticed I kind of have a visceral reaction when I see that there's only one model being used because I suddenly feel like I don't know how it would look on a different kind of person or a different kind of aesthetic.
Well, that's what I liked about the idea that guy had with the raincoats is that he wanted people to just, he included them on his website so that they automatically load on the website. So you could just scroll down and see
How it looks
tons
on
and tons and tons of people. It just directly feeds into the website from his Instagram.
Exactly, because honestly, I'm looking at some of these and thinking, does it look good on this girl in particular, or
Right.
how does the garment look on people in general? And I
right.
have no idea.
Yeah, these are under professional photographers sometimes taking these pictures, and people, they don't know what it's going to really look like in real life.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that was a good idea to put the Instagram pictures.
Especially I found this of like the younger women were on every kind of social media platform. They were really interested in promoting themselves. They were super excited to talk to us. But kind of to your point about the raincoats, I could see all their work on Instagram. It was easy to follow them. I noticed you were following people quite like frequently and sort of sharing social media profiles. And then there were people who weren't able to show me a lot of different areas in which I could see their work. And I found myself, it was funny, independent of actually liking the designer or not, I found myself gravitating towards people who had sort of larger social media profiles or people who I could see their work in a more expensive way. So I don't know what that says about marketing in general. Probably, on its nose, it seems like social media works well, But I think that people who are really eager to sort of spread the word about their label, and it was really easy to find their stuff, that was something I was very appreciative of. And that was a lot of designers.
Well, yeah,
at
like I
Capsule.
said, these last few I found just by clicking, but not everybody on there had a website, you know, and it was so what you have to search for them, you know. This is the steampunk. I was looking at the one I'm showing you right now. What's the name of the brand again? I forgot.
Forsnome. Is that right?
First name.
Yeah, Forsnome.
Yeah.
Spell it for me.
Forsnome.
Okay, yeah, it's the only one that's steampunk fashions. I thought it was kind of interesting on there too. There's no one else doing that stuff out on, at least at the capsule show.
Also, the only
yeah.
Pretty
models
popular these days. It's
Yeah.
it's coming back in.
tattoos. Did you see any other models with tattoos?
No.
Yeah, these are the only
Yeah,
ones.
it's very interesting. And since you mentioned that this is the only like kind of punk theme design, what I like about the show is that it's kind of it combines the more established brands like CC and with these
Well,
emerging,
CC is brand new too, but yeah.
like more kind of like emerging brands. So like aspiring designers, like like the new designers who just came out for like a year or two.
Yeah,
and-
that's what I liked about it too. It
Yeah.
kind of mixes them up. I mean, the people that were there, I think it's mostly the people who are new. And I think the people that, like I said, that are going back that are old are doing it because either they like the show, it seems to work well for them, and they want to see, or maybe they want to see what else is out there, or maybe they already paid up. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was mostly new people.
That's great.
Yeah. I really liked that. The only thing that drove me to go to one person versus another was their collection. It wasn't like someone had more advertising.
Oh, yeah,
or
that's right.
It
I
was just an
remember now what I was gonna
open
say.
warehouse canvas, and I could
Right.
open warehouse,
Right.
and I
Right.
could just walk up to people. I kind of feel frustrated when I go to some other shows or some other places, and I feel like clearly the person who had more money got to buy the like bigger spot. And
Well,
things
that's
like that.
that's the main thing. I mean, whoever listens to this, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit different than a lot of my other stuff, but it's mostly for women. I guess guys would probably be bored with it. But the thing is, a lot of these, it's not as pretentious, the capsule show. It's people that are intimidated, I think, by some of this super high fashion. These are designers that are approachable. Not only the people are approachable, but they're real people. They're trying to make something, but they're not selling themselves out, And so that's why I thought this show and a couple of these designers are kind of interesting. They're doing what they want to do, and they're living their dream. They're not just trying to make it rich.
Yeah.
That's the impression I got from there. Some of them were a little bit snotty. They seemed like they didn't really want to talk to you, but I think it was good in a way, even when they're snotty, because it's them. They're not fake. So that's what I liked about a lot of the designers. Whether you got along with them or not, you got a feeling it was really them.
Yeah, and oftentimes you were speaking with the person who made the creation. There were a couple times when we went up to a shoe designer, and clearly the girl didn't feel very comfortable talking about the label because she was just a representative.
And also she was being cautious because she wasn't sure the designer wants publicity before the line was out.
Yeah. Well, so the thing is, I for the people that are listening, I'll put a list of all the designers that most of them that I liked and that you guys like on the website, and then the capsule. What is it? Capsule.com or something like that. I guess you could go to the
it's called the Capsule Show.
Right, the Capsule Show. But I think a lot of the people out there, they don't have a choice if they're not in a big city and somewhere. It's hard for them to find something that's like done by a new designer that's a little bit different. And so with the internet, it's a little bit easier, but still, they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
So I thought presenting some of this stuff is, it would be a good idea for some of those people.
Yeah, I think the show is exciting for a number of reasons, but there was definitely a lot of non-traditional clothing, jewelry, bags, makeup, hair, all of that. It was definitely a cool show, I think.
What do you think, Ray? Anything else to say?
No. This show actually reminded, because we were talking about how like new designers like who were just like out for less than a year and register and to like showcase their creative work at this show, which is like a really inspiring thing to do, and it reminded me how like back in the days, everybody, when there's not a lot of ready to wear and people would just make their own clothes. Like, I don't know here.
Oh, right. No, they did
Right.
that. You would go to the store and you'd buy the pattern.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
my
little-
mom
had a
would
little thing
even
and
in
you cut it
the
out
into
yourself.
the 90s, my mom used to just buy the fabric and patterns
Right.
and go
People
to
used to see sewing machines in department stores.
right. Yeah, and she also did these amazing crochet, and she'd weave all these beautiful sweaters that she designed herself. And I never realized back then, and not until I went to this show and I realized, oh, if my mom were to just register on Capsule, maybe she could have her own stand. You know, everybody could be
sure.
a designer. So I think shows like this can really inspire people. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's cut it there.
All right.
All right,
whatever.
great,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Now, I guess push pause or stop. This is going to be our main. Oops, was it still going? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still
it is
going.
still
going.
I think hit record. Okay.
You've been listening to the Uncommon Core Podcast with Thomas Howell. I'm Satoko Smith. Thank you for listening.